My name is Mara Ellison, and I'm 29. I write code by day and contingency plans by night, the kind that make rent boring and emergencies uneventful. My one bedroom in Lincoln Park is small, but paid on time. My Honda is old, but mine. And my savings spreadsheet hums like a quiet engine. I'm telling you this because money and time are the two languages I speak fluently, and because this story is really about how I stopped spending both on someone who called my care clingy. His name is Jace, 27, a marketing guy at a downtown startup who could turn a Tuesday into a trailer. We didn't live together, but I kept a toothbrush at his place and a sweater on the back of his chair. For 3 years, we were the kind of couple with shared playlists and semi-shared weekends. I thought we were building toward a future that moved in patient increments. A dog, a bigger place, maybe a ring when the timelines made sense. In February, the first hairline crack. His text came the morning of his company's anniversary party. "Hey babe, can you skip tonight? Some coworkers think I seem too attached. I need to show up solo, you know? Optics." I typed, "Sure, no problem," and stared at my own reflection in the phone. Optics. It didn't stop there. The theme became a chorus. "You need hobbies besides me. Don't you have girls to hang out with? I feel like I'm your whole world, and that's a lot of pressure." The delivery was gentle, almost therapeutic, but something about it felt like being asked to apologize for having a heart with the Wi-Fi password. The breaking point landed on a Tuesday in late March. I brought his favorite pad thai, slid into his kitchen chair, and started telling him about my day, my project lead quit, handoff chaos looming, because he'd asked, "How was work?" He exhaled like I'd set a piano on his chest. "Mara, can we not do this right now?" "Do what?" "This unloading. I had a long day too. I need someone who can handle their own stress, someone independent." He didn't look at me when he said it. He looked at his phone, thumb scrolling past strangers' lives. "You're too clingy." There it was, the word that had been circling, finally landing like a verdict stamped on a file. I waited for anger and found clarity instead. I set my fork down, stood, and said, "You're right." He blinked, thrown off by how calmly I agreed. "What?" "You're absolutely right. I'll work on that." I left before the pad thai cooled. The next morning, I didn't send the good morning text. At lunch, no meme. When he pinged me Thursday, "You okay?" I answered 6 hours later, "Busy. Talk later." It wasn't a game. Something in me had switched off, like a lamp. I should have stopped paying the electric bill 4 months ago. I called my college friend Delia and said yes to Saturday basketball with her crew at Margate Park, something I'd put off because Jace liked our weekends spontaneous. I joined a boxing gym that smelled like leather, bleach, and second chances. On Thursdays, I tried trivia with coworkers and learned I'm alarmingly good at obscure 90s jingles. Pieces of myself I'd stored like winter clothes came back into season. When Jace called Friday night to ask what I was doing, I told him the truth. Hanging with Delia and a few friends. We're watching the fight. "Oh, will you come after?" "Probably not. It'll be late." Silence. "Okay, have fun." 2 weeks into the new rhythm, he started texting more. Photos of sunsets, a song that reminded him of us, check-ins that felt like pings to a device he'd misplaced. I responded, but the paragraphs were gone. Brevity came easy when I wasn't auditioning for worth. He invited me over midweek. Candles, real dinner, not delivery. The dress I once said made his eyes look greener. "Feels like I haven't seen you," he said, smiling with his mouth, not his eyes. "I've been busy," I said. "You were right. I needed to build my own life." "I didn't mean you should disappear." "I haven't. I'm right here." "You know what I mean," he said, jaw tightening. "You're different." "You asked for different." Later, when things turned physical, he was uncharacteristically urgent and then uncharacteristically tender. Arms locked around me like a question he was afraid to ask aloud. "Stay?" "I can't," I said, kissing his forehead. "Early gym session." His hurt flashed quick, then hid. I left anyway, the hallway light turning everything the color of almost. The real shift came 3 days later. I posted a sweaty, grinning group photo from the boxing gym. 20 minutes after, Jace called without hello. "Who's that guy on your left?" "That's Nolan," I said, checking the background. "He trains there. Sometimes we do partner drills." "You're sparring with another guy?" "It's boxing, Jace. It's not personal." "Does he know you have a boyfriend?" "It's never come up. We talk about footwork and forms, not relationship statuses." A loaded silence. "I want to see you tonight." "I already have plans with Delia." Cancel them. No. The no surprised us both. It hung in the air like a bell tone that wouldn't fade. You're serious? You told me to have my own life. I'm having it. That doesn't mean shutting me out. I'm not shutting you out, I said, soft but steady. I'm just not dropping everything for you anymore. He hung up. Saturday morning, he knocked on my door 5 minutes before I was leaving for the park. Puffy eyes, hoodie, contrition. We need to talk. I have to go in 10. This is more important than basketball. Maybe to you. He stared, stunned that a boundary could be that boring. What is happening to us? You wanted space, independence. I gave it to you. By pulling away completely, by suddenly having this whole life I'm not part of. I included you in everything before, I said. You called it clingy. He swallowed, eyes glassing. I didn't mean... He stopped. The thing about pauses is you can hear the truth breathing behind them. I didn't mean for you to stop caring, he finished, voice cracking. I still care, I said, slinging my gym bag over my shoulder. I just care about other things too. He stepped closer, hands on my chest like anchors. I miss you. I miss us. Can we please just go back? Here's the part I didn't say out loud. He didn't miss me. He missed being the sun. Now that I'd become my own weather, he was cold. No, I said gently. We can't. Why not? I looked past him, out the window, where the L rattled by like a metronome. Somewhere between his accusation and my first morning run, a lock had clicked. I didn't know everything yet, but I knew this. Once you learn to hold your own life, you don't hand it back to someone who asked you to drop it. I have to go, I said, opening the door. He stood there a second longer, like a man who'd lost something without seeing it leave. Then he nodded, stepped into the hall, and didn't look back. I didn't either. September in Chicago sharpens everything. The light, the air, even excuses. I set alarms for earlier runs, packed my gym bag the night before, and learned which bus lines forgive a late start and which ones don't. My life began sinking to a rhythm that didn't check Jace's calendar first. For 6 days after that hallway goodbye, he went quiet. On the 7th, his name reappeared like a song I used to overplay. How are you? I miss you. Can we reset? I read the text the way you read nutrition labels. Curious, not compelled. I kept moving. At the boxing gym, Coach had us run partner drills. Nolan corrected my guard with 2 fingers and a nod. Your right hand's drifting. Keep home close. Copy, I said, resetting. There was a steadiness in the way he taught. No flirt, no performance, just presence. Thursday, the river looked like liquid steel. I finished sprints and took the long way to my building. On the steps, Jace was waiting with a paper bag that smelled like garlic and a bouquet of tulips the color of dawn. He'd always been observant about small things. Sometimes he turned them into props. 5 minutes, I said, holding the door. Inside, he placed the food down like an offering and took in my apartment, a basil plant aiming toward the light, a laundry basket mid-fold, my battered jump rope coiled on a chair. I've thought about that night 1,000 times, he started, voice pitched low. I hate who I was. I hate that I made you feel small. I didn't feel small, I said. I felt mismeasured. A beat. He nodded, as if respect could be retroactive. I cooked. He gestured at the bag. Your favorite. You remembered wrong, I said lightly, but thanks. We ate at my tiny table, elbows almost touching. He was unusually quiet, hands clasped, like he was holding a prayer too fragile to set down. I meant it when I said I want us to progress, he said. Everyone's leveling up, new cars, better apartments, bigger circles. I want that for us. Wanting outcomes is easy, I said. Rewriting habits is harder. I'm trying, he said, gaze catching on my keys in a ceramic dish. I don't like how it felt when you weren't there. I didn't realize how much I leaned on you. That's the problem, I said. Leaning isn't the same as loving. He blinked, stung. Then, who's Nolan? The fork paused halfway to my mouth. A guy at the gym. Partner drills. You spar with him? Sometimes. Does he know you're with me? I'm not sure I know I'm with you, I said, calm as weather. I know you and I are talking. I know I'm thinking. I know I'm not rebuilding a life just to make it smaller again. His jaw jumped. So I'm supposed to just watch you become someone else? You asked for someone independent. I asked for balance, he said, a little too loud. Then he flinched at his own echo, softer. I asked for you not to make me your whole world. I didn't, I said, but you were very loud in it. The neighbor's TV drifted through the wall, some sports commentator describing a clutch timeout. Jace exhaled, rubbed his face. I talked to my therapist, he said finally. Since when? Sat on my tongue. I let it pass. About what? About why I say clingy when what I mean is I'm scared, he said. Why I turn love into optics. Why I need rooms to look at me. I nodded. And? And he says I confuse visibility with value. He gave a dry laugh. Shocker. He reached for my hand across the table, stopped halfway, and let it fall. I also ran into Kayla, he added, too casual. At a friend's birthday. We talked about... I felt the temperature drop 3 degrees. About us? About me, he said quickly. About how I make people earn their way back into my attention whenever I feel insecure. She said I did it to her. That I took and called it standards. He waited for my face to change. It didn't. Kayla was a name I knew the way you know a street you never turn down. Familiar, distant, caution adjacent. What do you want from me, Jace? I asked. Time, he said. And for you to know I'm not playing you, or testing you, or trying to make you jealous. I'm scared, and I want to do the work. I'm doing work too, I said. Different kind. The kind that doesn't end with a grand gesture. The boring kind that lives in the calendar. His eyes flicked to the tulips. Can I at least leave those? Sure, I said. They don't ask for anything. He laughed, but it sounded like surrender. When he stood to go, he hesitated at the door. If I text, will you read it? I don't know, I said, honest and unhurried, but I'll be clear either way. He left. The apartment exhaled. I put the tulips in water and went to the gym. That weekend, Nolan and I did pads. Breathe, he said, tapping my glove. Exhale on the punch. I did. Something in my chest unclenched on command. Between rounds, he asked nothing that required me to prove I was fine. After, he walked me to the corner and said, You hit cleaner when you stop apologizing to the air first. I'll work on that, I said. Sunday afternoon, Delia and I sat with coffees that steamed the cold out of our hands. How's the circus? She asked. Smaller, I said. Quieter. He's trying. I'm not grading. She lifted an eyebrow. And the ex? Kayla exists, I said. That's all I know. Delia hummed. Just remember, history loves a sequel. Doesn't mean you need to watch. On Tuesday, my phone lit up with a photo Jace posted. Riverwalk, late sun, turning everything forgiving. The second slide was a table set for 2, captioned, Making Amends. No tags, no faces, just a performance of privacy. I closed the app and opened my code editor. The logic waited where I'd left it. That night, Jace texted, Dinner tomorrow? No strings, just time together. I stared at the little gray bubble and felt the tug of the old pattern. Reward the ask, soothe the fear, be the bridge. Instead, I typed, I have plans. He, can I join? Me. They're mine. 3 dots. Disappear. 3 dots. Okay. Another time? Maybe, I wrote, meaning only if the work keeps being about you, not me. I put the phone face down and stepped onto my balcony. The city glittered like 1,000 small promises. Somewhere a train stitched the night together. My life felt held from the inside. Later, as I locked up, a thought arrived and stayed. I'm not auditioning for the part of enough. I already have the role. A week later, the air turned thin enough to feel like truth. Mornings smelled of burnt leaves and bus exhaust, the kind of scent that warns you something's changing, even if you're not ready to name it. Jace's messages kept coming. Restrained, polite, apologetic. I answered rarely, then not at all. He tried to keep it light. Photos of his dog, a joke about remembering my coffee order, a throwback picture of us at Navy Pier captioned, Simpler Times. I didn't react. Then, on a Thursday, Jess called while I was at work. Her tone was the kind she used before delivering bad news to patients. Soft, but direct. Mara, I need to tell you something. You deserve to hear it from someone who cares. What happened? Jace has been seen with Kayla. The name dropped like a stone into my stomach. I didn't answer right away. They were at the cafe on Michigan Avenue, Jess continued. Brad snapped a photo while walking past. I didn't want to send it, but... Send it, I said quietly. When the photo loaded, I didn't zoom in. I didn't have to. They sat at an outdoor table, laughing, shoulders angled in that familiar lean that only happens when 2 people forget anyone else exists. Kayla's hair was shorter now, same caramel streaks catching the sun. Jace looked at ease, lighter than I'd seen him in months. For a second, I didn't feel anger, just relief. The kind that comes from confirmation, not surprise, like watching the final puzzle piece click into place and realizing the picture was never of you. Thank you, Jess, I said. You did the right thing. You okay? I will be. When we hung up, I opened my notes app and typed a single line. Sometimes closure isn't a conversation. It's a photograph you didn't ask for. Then I texted Jace. We're done. Don't contact me again. 30 seconds later, my phone lit up with his name. I let it ring out. Then again. Then again. A voicemail came through. Shaky breathing, then his voice. Mara, please, it's not what it looks like. We ran into each other. She wanted to apologize, that's all. Please call me back. Another text followed. She means nothing. I swear, I love you. Don't end this over one photo. I blocked him before the next bubble could appear. That night, I went for a long walk down the lakefront. The air bit my cheeks, but it felt like freedom, the kind that doesn't need witnesses. When I got home, I poured wine into a chipped mug and sat cross-legged by the window, city lights reflecting off the glass like small, indifferent stars. It was strange, how quiet heartbreak becomes when it's clean. No screaming, no second chances, just a woman and her own pulse, steady again. 2 days later, Delia came by with groceries and gossip. You sure you don't want to know what he's posting? She asked, lifting her phone. I'm good, she grinned. You really are. You're scaring me a little. Freedom's unsettling at first, I said, smiling. Still, when I scrolled that night, curiosity, not weakness. I saw what she meant. Jace had soft-launched Kayla on his story, a hand on a coffee cup. The caption read, "Some stories deserve second drafts." I laughed out loud, not cruelly, just incredulously, the kind of laugh that ends something for good. By Monday, my coworkers noticed the difference. I finished projects ahead of schedule, cracked jokes during stand-ups, even volunteered to lead a client pitch. One of them said, "You seem lighter." Let's call it unburdened, I said. Weeks passed. The leaves gave way to bare branches and early darkness. Life didn't suddenly bloom. It just steadied. I got promoted to team lead, started sleeping through the night again, and realized I hadn't replayed that Tuesday argument in over a month. One evening, on my walk home, I passed that same cafe. Through the window, I saw them, Jace and Kayla, sitting exactly where the photo had been taken. She was talking animatedly, hands flying. He was scrolling through his phone. Her hand rested near his on the table, never quite touching. I didn't stop walking. That night, I made tea, opened my laptop, and cleaned my digital closet. Old messages, photos, playlists. Delete, delete, archive. At the end, I paused over one folder, us. Inside were screenshots, notes, plans for trips we'd never taken. I selected all, then hovered over move to trash. For one heartbeat, I hesitated, then I clicked. The computer made that soft confirmation sound, the digital equivalent of a sigh. And just like that, the last echo of him was gone. I wrote one last line in my notes app before bed. When someone tells you you're too much, sometimes they mean you're more than they can carry. Then I closed the phone, turned off the light, and let sleep find me. By November, the city had traded color for steel. The trees were stripped bare, and the streets carried that cold clarity that comes after everything unnecessary has fallen away. My apartment felt bigger now. Not because I'd moved anything, but because space, once shared, has its own way of breathing again. I'd learned to like that sound. Work took over the hours that used to belong to overthinking. I'd been assigned a new project, one that required both precision and patience, two things heartbreak had forced me to master. When my manager called me into her office near the end of the month, I assumed it was about deadlines. Instead, she smiled. Mara, you've been exceptional these past few months. Effective next quarter, I'd like to promote you to senior developer. There's a raise, obviously, and I exhaled, startled into laughter. I don't even know what to say. Start with thank you, she teased. That night, I stopped by a small cafe near my building, ordered a slice of lemon cake, and toasted myself quietly. No audience, no social media post, just me, and the proof that I'd built something solid out of what once broke. The following week, Amanda texted, "Small get-together Saturday. No drama, I promise." I almost said no, but something about the invitation, the lack of urgency, the absence of subtext, made me curious. The evening hummed with laughter and low music, familiar faces, warm lights. I realized I'd missed this, people who existed outside the shadow of one person's moods. Near midnight, Amanda pulled me aside, voice low. "You should probably hear this from me before someone else says it." I braced. What happened? "It's Jace, or Jace and Kayla." I didn't flinch. "They broke up." Her eyes widened. "How'd you know?" "Because patterns don't retire. They just find new names." She sighed. Apparently, he lost his job 2 weeks ago. She kicked him out right after. He's been telling people she drained his savings and left him for some executive from her company. I said nothing, just stirred the ice in my drink. He asked about you, Amanda added carefully. Wanted to know if you're seeing anyone. I didn't say anything. Thank you, I said. A few nights later, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. Mara, it's Jace. Please don't block this yet. I need to apologize. You were right about everything. Kayla and I are done. I miss you. Not because I'm lonely, but because you made me better. Can we just talk? Coffee, 10 minutes? I stared at the message. My thumb hovered over reply, then delete. I did neither for a moment. Instead, I whispered to the empty room, you don't get to use me as proof you've changed. Then I blocked the number. It didn't sting. Not this time. It simply didn't matter. 2 weeks later, I ran into Nolan at the gym. He'd been my sparring partner once. Lately, we'd just waved across the mats. That night, he caught me on my way out. You ever grab dinner after a workout? He asked. Define dinner. Food that tastes better when you've earned it. I smiled. Then yes. We ended up at a small ramen shop where the steam fogged the windows and the conversation felt easy. No posturing, no strategies. Just two people trading stories between chopsticks and laughter. When he walked me home, he said, you carry yourself like someone who's finally comfortable being alone. I am. He nodded. That's good. That's the only kind of person I want to stand next to. Something in me, quiet and steady, said, this is what safe feels like. By December, the city wrapped itself in light again. Snow dusted the sidewalks, and shop windows glittered with other people's hopes. I'd made peace with mine. On Christmas Eve, I sat by the window of my apartment with a cup of cocoa and opened my laptop. A new document blinked on the screen. Next chapter. I filled it with goals, not resolutions, just coordinates. Travel more. Keep running. Learn to trust slow beginnings. And at the very bottom, I wrote, love doesn't require shrinking to fit someone's comfort. It should meet you at your full size, or not at all. Outside, a couple passed under a streetlight, laughing into the cold. I didn't envy them. I just hoped they both knew what it meant to stay whole. For the first time in a long while, I didn't need a story to feel complete. I already was one.